The day my world fell apart started like any other. I woke up early, before Carlos, to make him a cup of coffee and pack his lunch for the day. It was a ritual we'd fallen into over the years, a small act of love that I thought meant something to him. As I handed him the coffee, he smiled and kissed my cheek, but when I tried to hug him, he flinched away. Just a little, but enough to make me feel a pang of unease. At first, I brushed it off. He'd been stressed about work, and I knew he was not a morning person. But as the day went on, I could not shake the feeling that something was off. He was distant, preoccupied, and when I asked him what was wrong, he just shrugged it off. I would been married to Carlos for 10 years, and in that time, I would grown accustomed to his rhythms and moods. We'd met in high school, and I was the girl who'd always had a crush on him. He was charming, handsome, and spoke with a smooth confidence that drew people to him. When he proposed, I thought I would landed my happily ever after. But over the years, I would started to feel like I was walking on eggshells around him. He'd always been a bit possessive, questioning me about my friendships with other men, and sometimes even accusing me of flirting when I was just being friendly. I would try to brush it off as love, telling myself he was just protective of me. But lately, it had started to feel more like control. As I thought back, I realized there were other red flags I would ignored. He'd suddenly started buying new clothes and cologne, and he'd become meticulous about deleting his text messages and browser history. He'd even accused me of cheating out of nowhere, which had left me reeling. I pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on the present. I needed to talk to him, to figure out what was going on. But as I approached him, he turned back to his phone, dismissing me. "Hey, can we talk?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "What's up?" he replied, not looking up. "I just feel like you are distant lately," I said, trying to gauge his reaction. He sighed, putting down his phone. "I am just stressed, okay? Work is crazy right now." I nodded, feeling a tiny spark of relief. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But as the days went by, I started to notice more and more inconsistencies in his story. He'd say he was working late, but then I would see texts from him popping up at odd hours. He'd tell me he was going out with friends, but when I asked him about it later, he changed the subject. It was not until I found the plane tickets that my world started to unravel. I was looking for a document on his laptop, and I stumbled upon an email with a confirmation for a flight to California. The thing was, he told me that trip had been canceled weeks ago. My heart started racing as I scrolled through the email. The flight was for 2 people, and it was booked for the following weekend. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead as I realized I needed to know more. I started to dig deeper, and what I found made my blood run cold. The tickets weren't just any tickets. They were for a trip to our hometown, San Antonio. And then I saw it, a photo of him and his ex-wife, Anna, on Facebook. I would met Anna a few times when they were still together. She was a few years older than me, with piercing green eyes and long curly hair. Carlos had told me they'd parted ways amicably, but as I looked at the photo, I felt a pang of recognition. I would seen her before, at our house, when I was away visiting my family. My mind reeled as I thought back to all the times he'd told me he was working late, or out with friends. Had he been with her the whole time? I felt like I would been punched in the gut. I could not breathe. All those years, all those sacrifices I would made for him, and this was what he did? He cheated on me with his ex-wife behind my back for 5 years. I thought about all the times I would doubted myself, all the times I would felt like I was not good enough. But now I realized it was never about me. It was about him and his inability to be honest. As I sat there, trying to process everything, I knew I had to talk to someone. I called my Aunt Elsa, who'd been through something similar with her own ex-husband. She answered on the first ring, and I poured out my heart to her, telling her everything. Aunt Elsa listened, her voice calm and soothing. "Mia, you deserve so much better than this. You need to get out of there, now." I knew she was right. But as I looked around our house, at the life we'd built together, I felt a pang of fear. What would happen to me if I left him? Would I lose my green card? Would I have to start over? But as I thought about it, I realized I had a choice. I could stay in this toxic relationship, or I could take a chance on myself. I could leave, and I could start over. As I made my decision, I felt a sense of strength rising up inside me. I was done playing the victim. I was done being controlled. I took a deep breath, and I started to pack my bags. I would confront him, calmly and quietly, and then I would walk away. "Carlos," I said, my voice firm but controlled. "We need to talk." He looked up from his phone, a look of guilt flashing across his face. "What's going on?" "I know what's going on," I said, my voice steady. "I know about Anna. I know about the trips, the texts, the lies. He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. Don't, I said, my voice rising. Don't lie to me. Don't try to gaslight me. I know the truth. He looked taken aback, but I could see the guilt written all over his face. I am sorry, he said, trying to placate me. But I was not having it. Sorry isn't enough, I said, my voice cold. You need to leave. You need to take your things and go. As I watched him gather his belongings and leave, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I was free. I was finally free. It was not easy, and it was not quick. But I did it. I left him, and I started over. And as I looked back on that experience, I realized that I had been given a gift, the gift of strength, of resilience, and of the knowledge that I deserved so much better. I thought about Anna, and how she'd confirmed that this was Carlos's pattern. He'd cheated on her just like he'd cheated on me. And I realized that I had been blind to it, caught up in my own love for him. But now I saw it clearly. I saw the red flags, the lies, the control. And I knew that I would never let anyone do that to me again. As I closed the door behind him, I felt a sense of empowerment. I was taking back my life, my heart, and my future. And I knew that I would never be the same again.